How are you guys feeling about Russell Simmons? He came out recently and said that he would be starting an all-deaf movie awards because he's got all-deaf digital. Right. And so he's just like, well, we can have our own. If they're not going to reward us, we can have our own award show where you can vote online for, you know, your favorite films. How do you ladies feel about that?
I think that's awesome. It's interesting that he's doing this because they had what they deemed the Black Oscars years ago was called the Tree of Life Awards.
Really?
And it was and we were talking about this.
Yeah.
It was an awards that they had to celebrate those who were not acknowledged in the Oscars, and then also too those who may have been nominated, because then we were actually nominating at least more people of color than we have currently. So I think anything that you can show, anything that you can do to kind of allow us to acknowledge one another so that we can be unified is great.
And really get the people involved too. I think if he's opening up to the public to really test and see like what people are watching, what they're enjoying, and what they're really excited about. I think that's actually really good too.
Yes. For me, I think it's really only a temporary solution though, because I guess the goal of this is to reform the overall umbrella institution that then would acknowledge people of color's work. So it's good for this year, and it may be good for the next year, but we really want to see actual effectual change in the industry in terms of what gets greenlit, in terms of the casting. I mean, the biggest thing about this is that we found that it's a systemic problem for everybody from agents to producers to executives to even the reporters covering it.
Yes.
And you're absolutely right, because even going back to the Tree of Life Awards, that was the purpose, and that's why it ended in 2007, because there were 8 nominees that year of color. So they realized, we are included, so there's no longer a need for this. And then fast forward.
And then here we are,
Here we are.
2016.
I mean, I think it's great that he's doing it, but I think you said it's a temporary solution. The real problem is the industry, and if we're not addressing that, or if we're not trying to reform that industry, these award shows, there's not going to be any real big effective change. Yeah, you might see another 1 or 2 people of color included for roles that they're typically included for, but we're not going to see them in substance roles that are like CEOs of a company or some type of character that's a little bit more different archetype than the subservient or
for me
whatever. That's
what's more important, honestly, is the affected change as a result versus the awards themselves, including the Oscars, whether it's Russell Simmons awards or the Oscars itself. It is who is in place to greenlight the movies that we want to see? Who are they hiring to write these films, to produce them, to direct them? And how are we being represented as people of color? And even when you said systemic, in terms of like even the reporters who are reporting on the whole Oscars So White hashtag has somehow been just really basically brought down to just a black and white thing when we're talking about all people of color. Have you noticed how it's been reported, and mostly the black actors who are speaking on it or have made a statement about it, they're the ones who are being featured, they're the ones who are being
ones who are being asked
and who are being associated with the term boycott. Like there's a systemic problem, and all of us in this industry are responsible for it. It's not just the Academy voters, it's like everybody.
And it's very interesting that you say that. We're actually going to touch more on what exactly is the root of the issue. Where does it start? Does it start with the scripts? Does it start with the agents, with the studios? So you're going to have to tune in for our next segment of Real Chats, where we will hear more about that. Thank you.